What surprised me is, as a lame duck president, Biden gave the go-ahead for the use of these cruise missiles against Russian Federation territory that's internationally recognized. That did come as a surprise. We need to think about the use of these missiles as more about targeting Donald Trump's incoming administration rather than simply, command posts, arms dumps, fuel supply silos in the Russian Federation. Because we all know before Donald Trump was elected, he was promising that within 24 hours of being elected president, he would solve the Ukraine war. Well, no one took that one seriously. It would have to be pretty crazy to believe that. But nonetheless, I think we should take seriously his promise to force, and that's the right word, force Ukraine to the negotiating table and basically come up with some sort of deal between Ukraine and Russia. In reality, a deal between the United States and Russia, because as the Trumpists have been saying, this is a proxy war, and this is a war, according to one of Trump's advisors, at least, former General Kellogg. He's saying this is a proxy war, but also a proxy war that's reached a stalemate. And Biden has been continuing this war against Russia in spite of the interest of Ukraine has in peace, and in spite of the danger of further escalation. So Trump is coming in and he's saying there will be a deal, land will go. He's saying, and his advisors say, Crimea, that has to return to Russia. It was 1954 that Crimea transferred to the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. Incoming Trump administration is saying, give it back to Russia. The majority of people there speak Russian. The majority of people identify with Russia. Okay, maybe the referendum was rigged after 2014, but very few people doubt that you would still have had an overwhelming vote to join the Russian Federation, not least because in 2014, not only did you see the CIA engineered Maidan coup, but you also saw fascist gangs marauding throughout Ukraine. So, for example, today's Azov brigade was initially a fascist militia. There were many such fascist militias targeting Russian speakers, obviously, particularly in the East and in particular in the South. So these people weren't propelled by Russian bayonets into unity with Russia. They were propelled into unity by fire bombings, by assassinations, by beatings meted out by fascist gangs. Either way, there's talk of other land for land deals. Trump will come up with some sort of formulation of the Donbass, again, majority, not quite as big a majority as in Crimea, but nonetheless a Russian-speaking majority. Perhaps that area should have autonomous status in Ukraine, or perhaps it should be given over entirely or in part to the Russian Federation. Maybe the same will go with the South. There's also talk of Ukraine being barred from joining NATO along with Georgia. What America gets in return, I don't know. Maybe the hope is to split Russia from China. Will that happen? I'm very skeptical. In spite of Trump's skills as a deal maker, I'm not convinced on that. But maybe he'll just chuck Ukraine onto the operating table, slice off some territory, conclude a peace with Russia in order to concentrate on China. We just don't know. Should be noted, however, that Trump himself says, I don't just come with an olive branch, I also come with a big stick. And if Russia doesn't do a deal, then it will be storm time. Then it will be no limits to what we will supply Ukraine with. And clearly then the gloves will come off, and one presumes the Biden strategy, and a strategy that actually predates Biden by a considerable period, will be put back into operation. And that is using this war to break Russia economically, to break it politically, in order to dismember Russia, or to put in the Kremlin someone equivalent to Navalny or Yeltsin. That would then surround China. China could then be dealt with much more easily in terms of US strategies. It's entirely unpredictable. Not only do you have a highly unpredictable president, you also have a highly unpredictable situation. What will happen, to the Zelensky regime if he does do an unequal peace treaty with Russia? Will he be overthrown in some Azov brigade coup? The danger hasn't gone away. And that is the important question here, that Trump comes talking peace, but the danger is that we could suddenly yank forward and we're into a full-blown NATO Russia war. After all, one of Trump's proposals is to freeze the conflict and to have a buffer zone going along the entire 800-mile front between Ukraine and Russia. And that will be manned by soldiers, at least one of the stories I've read, soldiers from Britain, soldiers from Poland, soldiers from the Nordic countries, but also soldiers from the Baltic countries, and the Estonian foreign minister has already volunteered those soldiers. So that's NATO boots on the ground, not American boots, admittedly, but nonetheless. Okay, in the name of peace, but that again could so easily turn from a situation of where these are peacekeepers into a situation of where, to use a phrase, they are peace enforcers. So we shouldn't draw, an absolute rigid line between peace and war, between peacekeepers and peacemakers. War and peace are just two sides of the same coin. Now, the excuse for Biden is the reason I gave the go-ahead for the use of these ATACMS was the presence of 15,000 North Korean troops in Kursk. That in total, the expectation is of 100,000 North Korean soldiers being deployed to the Kursk battle zone. Now that matters, I think, in terms of red lines, because what we're talking about here is regaining internationally recognized territory of the Russian Federation, that they would be used in human waves. The poor bastards, the suffering so far of Ukrainian soldiers, Russian soldiers, that's been absolutely horrendous. This has been the playing out of World War I on both sides, human waves, huge losses in order to regain yards of territory or compensation. We're given Russian oil, breaking international sanctions and all the rest of it. It's on both sides an escalation in order to have something more to trade after January the 20th. Trump, he can switch off Ukrainian arms supplies, and the idea of the EU, Britain, France or Germany, reluctant Germany, and substituting for the United States, that's just not going to happen. If Trump wanted it to happen, it would happen. We're not dealing with Europe as an independent player. They could become so, but clearly they're not at the present time.